Today we're going to be looking at preparing a fleece for spinning with hand cards. This is a flick carder. You can see that it's got a smaller surface area than a hand carder. It's designed to remove debris, vegetable matter, second cuts from your fleece. These are hand carders. They come in a curved back or a flat back. There isn't one that's better than the other, it's just a matter of personal preference. Oops. This is generally called a cotton carder. It's used for finer fibers like cashmere, cotton, bison. You can see it's shorter and wider than a standard hand card. Looking at the ends, you can see the teeth density that's stamped on the end of each hand carder. That tells you the number of teeth per square inch of the hand card. To flick card, I always use something to protect my pants. Otherwise, the flick carder is going to damage the fibers on your fabric. So a scrap of leather, piece of twill, piece of denim, or lap cloth, they work really well. So here we have our washed fiber. You can see, oops, still second cuts. The tips of the fiber kind of clump together, and you can pull out a lock at a time. So we're going to look at teasing first. Basically, all you're doing here is fluffing up your fiber, trying to pull out any extra debris that's in there, vegetable matter, dirt, anything like that. But we're really just trying to make a soft, fluffy cloud. So you want to make sure that we divide up the tips and spread out the cut end and just generally fluff it up so that it's ready for spinning. This makes a really good woolen preparation because your fiber is nice and open and airy and ready for spinning with a long draw. So we'll do this again. Grab another lock. And just fluff it up. There we go. Next, we're going to be looking at flick carding. So again, we're going to go through and pick out some locks. Just grab the tips, pull the lock out. When you do that, try to make sure that you hold on to the rest of the fleece so that you don't end up mucking up the rest of the fiber that you haven't sorted out yet. So we have all our locks ready for flick carding. I always like to flick the tips first, and I put a little twist right in the middle of the lock so the flick card doesn't pull it out of my hand. So a little flick on the tips, flip it around, a little flick on the cut end. And all you're doing with flick carding is opening up the lock and trying to remove any debris in there. So any vegetable matter, some hay, dirt, whatever might have gotten caught in the lock and not removed in washing. going to go with the teeth kind of pulling opposites to the lock. We'll do this a few more times. Little twist, little flick. This is why you definitely want to use something to protect your clothes. I should note too that this fleece is definitely solidly in the medium category. If you have a finer fleece or one that's more delicate, you probably want to use a gentler motion, like a light flicking motion instead of a brushing motion to make sure you don't break your lock. And there we have it. Our locks all nicely flicked and open. Next up, we're going to look at hand carding. First, we're going to make rolags, then we're going to make something called a sliver. Just going to sort out some more locks here. And we're ready to start hand carding. My personal preference is for the curved cards, but if you prefer the flat cards, that's just fine. It's really just a matter of personal preference. When we load the cards, less is definitely more. We want to make sure that you're not putting too much fiber on the hand cards, or you're going to be fighting with your cards and your fiber. Loading the card, you want to put the locks on with the cut ends facing the handle of the card and the tips hanging off the end there. You only want to load the card about 3/4 of the way up. To card the fiber, you're going to start with the tips, and you're going to very slowly work your way up the locks. The top teeth of the working card are just going to very gently kiss the teeth of the holding card. We're going to do 2 passes here. Remember that you're gently transferring the fiber from one card to the other. You want them to brush the fiber, but you don't want to pull the teeth through each other. To remove the fiber, just gently pull it off with the teeth of one card, or you can use your hand. To make a rolag, you're just going to roll it up from the bottom. You can do this on the teeth of the card, or you can do it on your lap. This fleece is super dirty, so my lap is covered in dirt. We're going to go through this process one more time. Since this fleece is so dirty, we're going to actually flick the locks a couple of times before we put them on the hand cards. This helps just get some of that veg and dirt out of the locks so they don't get trapped in your roll egg, which can cause you problems in spinning later on. Before you put the locks on the hand cards, it's a good idea to tease them gently open. It makes it easier on your equipment, easier on you, easier on your fiber, if it's a little bit open before you try carding it. The same is true for a drum carder as well. Hand carding is really a gentle process. You want to be gentle with your hand cards, you want to be gentle with your fiber. That helps make sure that your fiber doesn't break, which will cause naps in your yarn. If you're really talented, you don't need to switch hands. I've been doing this for over a decade. I switch hands every time. There we go. Light, fluffy rolag, perfectly prepped for woolen spinning. Now we're going to look at making a sliver instead of a rolag. The process is the same to start. We're going to load the hand cards and card our fiber. You might notice there's a little swoosh at the top of that movement. That's to keep the fiber from bending back on itself so that the fibers are relatively straight on the cards. This time, we're going to roll the fibers sideways. This is going to give us a more aligned preparation. So the fibers are kind of going to be running in a similar direction. Unlike our rolag, where they're going the opposite way, you can see they're kind of aligned one way versus the other. when making these slivers, you're going to have to keep track of which side is the tips and which is the cut end. You can do that pretty easily if you're only doing 2 passes. The card the fibers end up on is going to be the same as the one they started. So the orientation is going to be the same with the cut end towards the handle. I rolled this on my dirty lab cloth and I already have regrets. Now we're going to look at spinning. First up is our teased logs. Just going to tease them a little bit more here before we start. Just making sure there's no parts where they're clumped together. And try to get out any extra veg matter or dirt. I'm going to be using something called a supported long jaw with a point of contact. So the supported part of the long jaw is my front hand is going to control that twist. My back hand is controlling the fiber, but I'm allowing the twist into my fiber supply, which is the part that makes it woolen. Throughout these videos, you'll see me stop to pull things out of my yarn. There's still a lot of hay stuck in this fleece. Okay, we are all finished with the singles and now we're ready to ply. Me wondering why there's no take-up. Much better. With plying, you want to keep even tension on your singles and feed them in at an even angle unless you're making a specialty yarn. underestimate how much hay was in this fleece. So my back hand is controlling the tension on the singles. My front hand is controlling that angle. When your yarn comes off the wheel, it should have a slight twist in the Z direction. You should have slightly more ply twist than you think you need at this stage. Once you wash your yarn, it should balance and it will hang straight at that point. If your yarn hangs in a perfect U right off the wheel, you probably need more ply twist to make a balanced yarn. There's our fluffy woolen yarn. Next up, we're going to do another woolen yarn, this time from rolags. This is a slightly different form of drafting. It's called double drafting. So for double drafting, we're going to let the twist into our fiber supply with pure abandon. And then we're going to go back out and even out that twist a little. Just pull out those sections where a little extra fiber got caught. That evens the twist out along the single. This makes for the fluffiest, truest woolen yarn. It's similar to point of contact in that we're letting twist into our fiber supply, but it differs in that the twist is going to just get into that fiber and we're going to sort it out after. Whereas with point of contact, it's a little more controlled. You're controlling how much twist enters your fiber supply and when. True woolen is not for the control freak, let me tell you. This is also where the prep is going to make a huge difference. It is way easier to spin a consistent, true woolen yarn if you have excellently prepared fiber. Any little bit of dirt or vegetable matter is going to get caught and it's going to cause bumps in your yarn. Trying to spin a little closer to the wheels so you can see what I'm doing. It's working with moderate success. And here it is, all tied up. It's super fluffy and very light. Next up, we're going to be looking at a short forward draw using our flick carded locks for a more worsted style yarn. We're going to be spinning from the cut end to the tip. On this particular fleece, it's really easy to tell which is the cut end versus the tip because it's a different color. So you can look and see the cut ends are a lot more white, whereas the tips are a lot more gray. For short forward draw, it's exactly what it sounds like. We're going to draw our fiber forward. Again, that back hand is going to control the fiber. The front hand is going to control our twist. The difference between a worsted and a woolen yarn is where that twist is. You're going to want to keep your twist in front of your forward hand so it's not getting into your fiber supply. That's going to make for a smoother worsted style yarn. The nice thing about working with these split carded locks is most of the hay and the dirt is out of them from flick carding. Still a little bit every once in a while. And there it is, all played up. You can see it's a lot smoother and also denser than our two woolen yarns. Next up, we're We're going to be doing short forward draw using our carded sliver. We needed to keep track of which were the tips and which were the cut ends, so we can be sure to be spinning from the cut ends first. If you don't know, you can take a little part out and rub it between your fingers. You'll find the fiber will move and you'll end up holding the tip. So whatever direction your fingers are moving towards, that's the tip of the lock. Shout out to Bess Smith for that amazing trick. Spinning short forward draw from a carded sliver is exactly the same as spinning short forward draw from a flicked lock. Again, we're going to be drafting out a little bit of fiber at a time using our front hand. The back hand controls the fiber supply. The front hand controls the twist, making sure that no twist gets into that fiber supply. The difference between carded sliver versus flick carded locks is they found a lot more debris in the carded sliver. This might be a situation where I would actually flick card the locks first before hand carding them, just to try to get a little extra of that vegetable matter out of the fleece. So this is a great opportunity to demonstrate a worsted join. So you're going to take the very barest tips of your fiber there and connect them above where your hand is. You're going to let them catch into the twist and then slowly draft it back. So then you're drafting your twisted fibers and your untwisted fibers together. And that makes a beautifully smooth, consistent join. Here it is, all plied up. Again, you can see it's a lot smoother than our woolen style yarns. We'll get a group shot going here. And there they are.